This is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you it's just one game, but oops, it didn't look good. Welcome in. We are live here on this Tuesday. Appreciate you guys joining me here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Lots of Braves news to get into. We had a trade yesterday after the Braves, or after I recorded the show, that the Braves made it that I want to get into, and some big picture issues for the Braves that I need to reiterate because I think as we go through this season right now, there's a sense of where this Braves team is and how it relates to them winning a World Series again that I think needs to be clarified, and an interesting NFL list that has me scratching my head. We'll do all that coming up on the show. This first segment brought to you by our friends at Rock Auto. Last night, Game 1 of the series, and to tell you how big of a series that even the national media thinks this is, ESPN, the app on their phone, I was looking it up this morning and just checking out some notes on the game tonight with David Peterson starting against Spencer Strider. And the little mini headline on the game said, Braves, Mets face Braves again, up 1-0 in series. Like up 1-0 in series as if it was the playoffs. It's the beginning of July. And again, up 1-0 in this series. Like I said, this is going to feel like a playoff series, and it should, because these two teams are primed to meet again in the postseason, regardless of what comes of these next two games in this entire three-game series. So, was their Max better than our Max on last night? That he was. That was it. And moreover, it was about the Braves' bats. And it was about the Braves continuing to be defined really offensively by who they are. And this is what happens over the course of 162. And I've talked about this repeatedly. Last night aside, in general, if you're going to mash your way through 162 games like teams that score a ton of runs do, when you don't score a ton of runs, you end up losing that game. Now, that gets magnified in the postseason. We're going to get to that coming up here next segment. But that gets magnified in the postseason when you face good pitching, and good pitching seems to dominate good hitting. All right? So it was just a spot where the Braves bats never really got going. Max Fried seems to have labored. Like, that's a fair term. I mean, he didn't look as sharp as he normally does. He didn't look terrible. He didn't look like he was off or struggling that badly. He just didn't have his top of the line stuff, and it kind of showed. So, I mean, for me, I told everybody yesterday, don't put too much into this series. Don't overthink it. But let this sort of be a test case for where they are. Mets got out to a 1-0 lead in the series. The Braves will come back today with Strider and hope to get one back. So, they had a couple of opportunities last night, but never really could capitalize. And it was one of those games where it was just dominated by the starting pitcher. And Fried had that bad. It was at the third inning where he got touched up for a couple of doubles and ended up scoring. And, a double play that would have made it a 1-0 game, made it a 2-0 game. Mets tack on too late. And nonetheless, it was a 4-1 game and it was a final. So, there's still hope, Braves fans. Let's not get too excited yet. There was one silver lining last night that I thought about, and it was sort of coincidental. I'll get to that here in just a moment. First, a word from our friends by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for you to find your parts that you need for your car at your local auto parts store. Why endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, is your car an LS or an EX kind of stuff, and wait while the person behind the counter sits there and types into their computer, choosing the only brand in their warehouse that they happen to carry? Well, your computer has access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can go to rockauto.com. You'll usually spend, why spend up to 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts that you could get at a chain or dealership? Rock Auto could save you up to 100% on the parts that you buy. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked on in there. How did you hear about us box so they know that we sent you? Amazing selection, reliably low prices, All the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. Again, use the code locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box. All right. It was interesting last night because there was one guy that made me smile, and that was Robinson Cano, who was traded for yesterday or the day before, whatever it was, Sunday evening, from the San Diego Padres, and immediately he gets slid into the lineup. He has 2 hits last night. He's wearing number 22. Remember there was a guy who used to wear number 22 for the Braves that was, pretty good at hitting and coming up with clutch hitting, great leader, older guy in the clubhouse? Yeah, that Nick Markakis guy. Maybe, just maybe, Robinson Cano gives you a little bit of that savvy Nick Markakis vibe, and gives you an opportunity to, give him a platoon at more than second base, maybe DH down the road. But, this is a team here that is stacked with a ton of people. I think Cano, if you could continue to get out of him what you got last night, which is some solid fielding, some timely hitting, that's it. He doesn't have to be special. He doesn't have to do anything over the top for this team. And he just continues to have to be a guy that is trusted in the lineup when he gets to play, and makes the most of his at-bats. Speaking of making the most, Austin Riley hits another home run last night. And yes, he was snubbed for the All-Star game. That's okay. When you look at it, Machado got voted in. Arenado and who am I missing? Were the other third baseman. They were 2 pretty good ones. Was it? I forget. Anyway, but it just happens. This is why it's one of those things where when you get an all-star snub at a position like third base, it's easy to understand because power hitting third baseman, the guys who put up numbers are pretty prevalent around the league, right? They're not that hard to find. It's not like it is with Dansby Swanson where you find a shortstop that is very, very productive offensively. That's typically not what you see around Major League Baseball. So, again, a 4-1 loss last night for the Braves. They'll turn around tonight. They'll send the mustache out there. You guys know me, huge Spencer Strider fan. I'm hoping he does exactly what we expect him to do. And this should be an interesting matchup for Strider because it'll give us a sense of how he operates really in games that are like playoff games, right? Like you just get everything seems a little bit more magnified as it is in the playoffs. So maybe you get a little bit of taste of what Strider is tonight. He fanned 12 guys his last time out. I'm not touching his K-prop at 6.5 again. I would probably lean on the under because the Mets don't strike out a lot, but still it's not a bet that I even want to get involved in. I want to just sit back and relax and watch Strider do his thing. And if he fans 6 guys in the first 2 innings again, hooray for the Braves. It's going to be a really good night. All right, coming up next, there are a couple things I need to reiterate about the Braves and an interesting decision made yesterday by Alex Anthopoulos that won't help this team win a World Series, at least not this year. We'll explain that coming up next. It's A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Be right back.